Losing time, money, and sanity trying to navigate international tariff updates? How are you supposed to find solutions to the shipping tariff squeeze when you already have a job? Abe Orgel is the CEO of Simple Forwarding, and he's here to help us understand international shipping regulations, rights of claim, Section 232 steel and aluminum tariff rules, how customs handles all this, and much, much more. So please say hello and feel welcome here at the last neutral zone in automotive on ATI Auto Business. What's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Auto Business, automotive ecosystem, where everyone, well, some people, a few, learn more about how the automotive industry really works. Let's get started with top industry news and headlines that include Tariff Automotive Impact Forecast DEFCON, what the tariff is happening at U.S. ports, and oh my god, more bad news for Tesla. This is show 394 on a Tuesday night on ATI Auto Business. We're talking about ports, supply chain, international shipping tariffs, adapting with Simple Forwarding. We are talking about don't just react to tariff changes, outsmart them. You can get the Art of the Deal free guide. You go to simpleforwarding.com. Abe is the CEO of Simple Forwarding. He's here with us tonight. Go to simpleforwarding.com. This caught my eye when I was checking out the company. Next level freight forwarding for e-commerce and Amazon sellers. I know there's some folks in there with international shipping that would like to know, yeah, how are the tariffs affecting my business? And how do I keep track of what that is? So it is, yes, I talk about new and used and dealers and auctions and more. And logistics. And so we're going to go out on the logistics limb with international shipping with Abe at Simple Forwarding. Yes, this is the ecosystem's neutral zone. It's not a big fan favorite anymore. People don't like the neutral zone. They like the extreme zones. Such as the golden ages here. People love this. I mean, who cares if it's, whatever. For example, on CBT News, ignore the tariff noise. No, strike that. Turning tariffs into opportunities. That's what we'll call it. And the fairy tale problem with Trump's car tariffs, written by an analyst that, well, this could be their last article that they write. One major auto industry tracker thinks Trump's vision of purely U.S.-made cars is pure fantasy. The president's head-scratching tariff slate could result in a 15 to 20% reduction in demand for new auto purchases in the U.S. in 2025. I know, but you're not seeing the big picture. The concept of a U.S.-made car with all U.S. parts is a fairy tale fictional narrative. This auto tariff, in its current form, will send the auto industry into upside-down mode and raise the average price of cars between $5,000 on the low end and $10,000, $10 to $15,000 on the high end. Can't be right. The golden age is here. Jeez, Joe Biden. Tuesday nights is the automotive ecosystem, 7 o'clock Central Time. 2 weeks ago, 50 Ways to Sue the Dealer. That was a weird show. It was pretty good. You just have to go into it, see some people. They watch on demand. Don't worry about it. We had nationalism versus common sense. If you made your pick. Pretending everything is fine because we voted for the guy. And then later on, every company is now a media company. AI you should be using right now so you can leave work early. I know everybody is really, really afraid of losing their jobs. So we are at the extremes rather than the neutrals. That's okay. Thursday's Industry Logistics outsourcing broker logistics support. That was a really good show too. If you missed it, check it out. Feel free. You can watch it only on ATI. All right, let's do. We're going to do some news. It's 5 minutes after. We have some viewers? Oh my God. Don't tell anybody. The impact of Trump's auto tariffs in combination with the 10% universal tariff, God knows if you can keep track of the percentage. We're going to have to ask Abe. Has led to one of the largest single-month changes we've ever made to the forecast. That's not great. That's not golden age stuff, by the way. Tariffs will lead to 2 million fewer auto sales in the U.S. this year, auto advisory firm. That's huge. Nah, can't be right. Trump tariffs could hurt the car market almost as badly as COVID and the 2008 crisis. Skip it. Can't be true. Joe Biden, the impact of Trump's auto tariffs in combination with the 10%. We read that. Nah, it's not true. Fake news. Let's see what else we got here. Parts tariffs will cause job cuts and lower sales. Fake news. Looming tariffs on auto parts will destabilize supply chains, lead to production stoppage, layoffs, supplier bankruptcy. Coalition of trade organizations representing auto parts makers, dealers, joint letter. It only takes failure of one supplier to lead to a shutdown of an automaker's production line. When this happens, as it did during the pandemic, all suppliers are impacted. Workers will lose their jobs. Wow. No wonder this isn't on the front page of any automotive news source. It underscores widespread fears from executives and analysts about the impact parts tariffs will have on suppliers, many of which are financially distressed. Yeah, exactly. People are already financially distressed. Oh, golly. Following the pandemic, years of inflation, egg prices, Joe Biden. Massive blow to Trump as Japanese car giant moves manufacturing out of the U.S. in a tariff twist. Subaru is reshuffling its supply chain. Well, nobody wanted Subarus anyways. More give Trump an F than any other. That can't be true. False. Automotive is in the great avoidance. I added that. Hyundai launches tariff task force. Shifts some Mexico output to the U.S. We didn't want them anyways. Supplier demand upfront tariff payments from automakers. Wow. Vallejo and Navarro say they can't supply parts to the U.S. unless customers cover the full cost of the tariffs. With current tariffs on all automotive imports running at 25%, that's an immediate hit to the automaker's bottom line that suppliers are refusing to mitigate. Suppliers say they're already under pressure from the increasing switch to less complex battery electric EV powertrains with fewer parts required are in no position to absorb any tariff. Chairman of Navarro, which supplies plastic parts to 1 in 3 vehicles produced worldwide, tells it's simple. Either pay in advance or no customs clearance. Yeah, that's easy. Vallejo, a specialist in driver assistance and lighting systems, also demands its automaker and auto parts distribution companies pay the full tariff cost. Oh my God. Ford halts pickup SUV sports car shipments to China. Good riddance. Ford has stopped shipping pickup trucks, SUVs, and sports cars to China to avoid increased tariffs. China's recent countermeasures in response to the U.S. import taxes have pushed tariffs on those vehicles as high as 150%. Let them eat cake. The Chinese export business represents a small but profitable operation for Ford. Who cares? Porsche shipments to dealerships stopped over tariffs. We didn't like Porsche anyways. Auto carrier could take $70 million hit from U.S. port fees. Plans to impose levies on Chinese vessels. They're Chinese vessels. Auto liners on Oslo, Norway-based carrier said their plan to impose fees on foreign ships calling at U.S. ports could cost the company as much as $70 million. Norway? I thought we liked Norway. Those measures also target foreign-built car carriers, regardless of which country. Regardless of which country? Oh, crap. Hogue said the cost could top $1 million per vessel calling at the U.S. Hogue's trade routes include Europe to the U.S. East Coast and Europe to the Caribbean and Mexico. Step in the wrong direction. Liner group questions legality of U.S. port fees. World Shipping Council says port fees may overstep U.S. authority. Port of Los Angeles warns difficult decisions ahead as shipments from China cease. Yeesh. Oh my God. U.S. Trade Representative has announced that fees on China-related vessels calling at U.S. ports, China. U.S. ports will include a cost per car unit of about $150 for finished vehicle carriers, which could mean a total cost of $1 million per call for, they're Chinese. He said it in his campaign speech. How Trump's China tariffs retaliation could put the U.S. EV supply chain in tailspin. It's Joe Biden. Exclusive Trump tariffs on Chinese parts for Cybercab and Semi disrupt Tesla's U.S. Oh, no. Tesla. We don't like Tesla anyways. Tesla was ready to absorb the additional cost when Trump imposed the 34% tariff on Chinese goods, but could not do so when the tariff went beyond that. Maybe that's insight. That was my little... Trump raised additional tariffs to 84% on April 9th, has since increased to 125%. No wonder Elon wasn't happy in April. Jeez, okay. All that dancing and, Let's see. The impact on the key business plans for Tesla reflected how Trump's tariffs, which were meant to boost U.S. local manufacturing, has hurt his political ally Musk. It was that honeymoon couldn't last. Who has repeatedly said on his social media posts on X, it's not true social. He supported free trade and objected tariffs. Musk, who posted a video illustrating how it requires a global supply chain to make a pencil. Oh, God. Well, he doesn't read much anyways. Had made personal appeal to Trump to reverse sweeping new tariffs worldwide. Tesla had also stopped taking new orders for Model S, Model X's China imposed retaliatory. Oh, man. And if that wasn't enough, Tesla's accused of speeding up odometers so they fall out of warranty faster. So remember how the guy loves truckers and he's trucking around in the truck? Huge decline at LA port is a hit to truckers and a stark warning of coming tariff damage. Logistics experts are warning that cargo volumes at U.S. ports are undergoing a precipitous drop. This trend is most apparent in L.A., Los Angeles, home to the nation's busiest port and one that is first to feel any drop-off from Asian shipping. Nobody likes California. Having a real effect on the U.S. economy, and one sizable group of workers is poised to feel the impact first: long-haul truckers. Oh, man. See, I can tell you from the photo, you see what he's doing? He's screaming like a trucker because he thinks truckers are brilliant. There we go. All right. What the Joe Biden? You can't say that. You know, if Joe Biden was doing all this, everybody'd be going crazy, jumping out of windows, Democrat this, Democrat that. But Trump, hey man, it's all good. Trump's autos tariff, you don't need that. Trump's auto tariff relief aimed at reshoring production in the U.S. Oh, okay. He's going to help us now. Look, Trump will sign an order giving automakers building vehicles in the U.S. relief from any part from his new 25% vehicle tariffs to allow them time to bring part supply chains back home. Yeah, dude. Automakers would receive credits for up to 15% of the value of 15%. I thought we were at 145. Of the value of vehicles assembled in the U.S. that could be applied against the value of imported parts. Autos and parts subject to the 25% Section 232 auto tariffs, it's easy to follow, would no longer be subject to Trump's other tariffs, including 25% duties on Canadian, Mexican goods, as well as 10% duties applied to most other countries. Trump's going to give auto tariffs a reprieve after car makers' appeals. Hey, they're going to fix it. Car carrier hopeful U.S. will amend surprise fee on the sector. Are you guys looking for a sugar daddy? Or what? I mean, what? Oh, yeah, sugar daddy. It's hilarious. Oh, you guys are killing me. ATI is where everyone learns more about how the automotive industry actually works. I know there is an automaker exec hiding in a closet somewhere loving this show because it is the only place where you're going to find any actual perspective on what is really going on. Get to know the ecosystem. I don't ship cars. I move information. Why am I here? Get the podcast. You can go to ATI Auto Business. Jay, we know. We've seen your show. We've got Abe coming up next, so do me a favor, stick around right after this. We're going to be live with Abe to learn more about international shipping tariff adaptation. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Understanding web traffic at your site can be a funny thing. Who, when, why? Then you have things like bounce rates, visit times, return traffic. The point is, you have traffic, but are you capitalizing on all that traffic and why they came to your site to begin with? You may do moving, vehicle inspections, car auctions, custom car building, car clubbing. Quotify is the first online shipping utility feature that helps you to retain the relevant traffic and capture business which is typically just sent away. It instantly allows your visitors to see multiple shipping companies' rates and live reviews with an option to book the shipment now or email it for later. If you have car shipping relevant traffic, then why not swing the bat and make some money along with some other added benefits? The best part of Quotify is that it's free. Yes, that's right. We actually pay you to offer your visitors something they most likely need anyways. So let's wrap this up. It's a totally free utility feature that will increase your site visit times, lower your bounce rates, increase return rates, and we even pay you to use it. Sounds too good to be true. It's not. Sign up today or call now to speak with a commercial account specialist.
Don't lose any more sleep worrying about missing leads. Get Transport Auto Quoter, Quotify, Superflow Systems. Quote the right price the first time, every time. Swing the bat. Run your business with TAQ. Visit transportautoquoter.com. All right, here we go. Please do help me wish a very warm welcome to fix my shirt. Abe of Simple Forwarding. Abe, can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. All right, cool. Do me a favor. Please say hello and tell us a little bit more about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abe Orgel, and I'm from Simple Forwarding. I have been doing freight forwarding for 8 years, and I developed a passion to figuring out the nuanced industry with complex ingredients that make the world go round.
Okay. That's the macro view. So what do you do? Thank you, Abe. So what do you like? Okay, so what is your world? Tell me more. What we did, we met briefly. We had a talk, kind of a prep. But what's your world like? Like, what did you do today? What did you do yesterday? What do you think about at night? What do you think about over the weekend? What are your clients' problems? Just tell us more about that.
It would be otherwise a difficult question, but right now it's pretty easy to answer. My day and week consists of 100% one word, and that word is tariffs. Questions about tariffs, questions about different ways to get away from tariffs, different kinds of tariffs, IEEPA, reciprocal, Section 232. So yeah, that's pretty much what my day consists of nowadays.
It's interesting that matches because the only thing I really did in the news was tariffs.
Really?
Like, yeah, like, really? That's awesome, man. You're only on the show, but people are like, that is just the greatest. That's what I like about ATI. I told you that, like, this won't be like most other shows that you made. Anyways, I don't need to brag, but the point is, it's all about tariffs. And early in my news, I found a headline. I thought it was so interesting that I had screen captured it because it said, like, avoiding tariffs, neglecting tariffs, avoid the tariff noise. And I thought that's hilarious. If you can't avoid the tariff noise, why would you even say that?
Right. Yeah.
Right? It is the only noise.
Yes.
It's like the alarm clock is in your head and it's going tariff, tariff, tariff. It's everything right now. Especially, but I realize, listen, if you're, let's say you might have a store domestically where you sell eggs and that alarm is eggs, right? Egg prices, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, that's enough of that. But my point is, I mean, it is tariff craziness. So in a nutshell, I find it really hard to follow what's happening and how much tariffs. Do you help simplify the understanding of tariffs? Can you even interpret, can you follow what's happening day to day?
I actually can, yeah. But that's creepy, so to speak. If someone could follow along, they're either over smart or they're really obsessed. I think I'm the latter. The point is,
you're both. You're obsessed and smart. Let's just be honest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a lot of confusion as to what tariff applies to what product and which tariff has been increased and which tariff has been put on pause. Because really, we have the Canadian and Mexican tariff that have been put on pause, and then you have the rest of the world that they have the 10% universal reciprocal tariff, but they don't have the added reciprocal tariff for a 90-day period. Now, the biggest confusion happens around the Chinese products coming from China and also with auto parts and cars overall. That includes parts that you could say you have the Section 232 that applies to auto parts. And stop me if I'm getting into the too
Keep
nitty-gritty.
going.
Okay,
No, I
good.
like it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is what we need. We need a tariff interpreter. In fact, if it's available, tariffinterpreter.com, I'd go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So, and yeah, it wasn't that difficult. Customs brokers jobs, you have to just have the right HS code, and the system is automatically gonna take you into the direction you have to go. But right now, it's which exclusion code do I put for products that left China after April 5 before April 10? And then if it's a Section 232 tariff, which is the steel and aluminum tariff, what exclusion do I put for the AIPA exclusion? So yeah, so I started saying with the auto parts, when is an auto part a Section 232 for auto parts, and when is an auto part a Section 232 for containing steel and aluminum? And that's not just my confusion. It's the automakers, they raised that question, and the White House is gonna work on it. They announced today they'll do some revisions to help automakers with because it's taxed one on top of the other. So imagine this. Imagine you have an auto part and you pay 25% because for the crime of being an auto part, right? It's an engine, it's a door, it's a steering wheel, it's a seat or a seat cover. But unfortunately, it contains steel and aluminum as well. So you pay another 25% on top because it has steel and aluminum. So that's really it's very confusing. And to be honest, I don't even know the 100% clear-cut structure. If you'd call me tomorrow, you have a auto part that is subject to the Section 232 steel and aluminum, I wouldn't know how to structure it, just with full honesty.
Well, okay, you've helped kind of clarify a few things, and I was just checking I was actually just checking the LinkedIn live stream, and I don't know why it's not live. It doesn't make sense. It was supposed to go live at 7 o'clock, so could be restream or who knows. Well, at least we're live on YouTube.
Okay.
So that's interesting. But the thing is that okay, you said something important there. And so I'm going to do my follow-up. Remember that big chart that he held out on the...
Yes.
Okay. Are you saying has most of that been postponed then?
So I wouldn't call it postponed because it doesn't have a restart date. It has a pause period. It's a 90-day pause where Trump is basically saying, I'm giving the opportunity for these nations to negotiate. And in the meantime, as a gesture of good faith, we're going to put the additional reciprocal tariffs on pause.
So, is China the main tariff then?
Yes, the only
The
tariff.
premier tariff?
Yes, the only tariff. Maybe I shouldn't say the only tariff because you have the 10% baseline that still applies to any nation in the world.
All right. What I'm doing is I'm sorry to do this. I'm putting the YouTube live link in LinkedIn if I can. All right. Okay, so here's one thing I want to ask you is that on the tariffs, we don't know what you know. So I'm asking these questions because clearly I'm confused. Is there an automotive tariff problem? Is there a parts supply chain tariff problem? The headlines that I'm reading, are those current? Are those not happening? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Anything people ask right now makes sense because I will tell you that you will see confusing information not only from amateurs, but you will see confusing information from legitimate media outlets as well. And this is not to say that they're misinformation. It's just that first of all, it changes, right? So I've done some podcasts where by the time it airs, it's going to be almost irrelevant. And so that's one for one. And you can see in your YouTube or in your LinkedIn feed, sometimes you see information and it's a week old, and all of a sudden the information is completely different. Um, but to summarize, with automakers, auto dealers, and parts, you have, if it's a finished auto, you have the 25% on the entire auto, on the entire car, right? So if you import a Toyota from overseas, it's a finished product that comes from Japan, you'll have the 25%. On top of that, if it's, I'm sorry, not on top of that. If you assemble a car in the United States, you will have 25% on anything that is considered a car part. And by the way, it's for consumer cars, meaning not for commercial cars like sprinter and cargo vans or trucks. But that's a different conversation, so don't even ask a follow-up question because I wouldn't have the answer.
Okay, but what I'm trying to do is set the stage for if I'm an automaker
Yes.
or I'm a parts supplier, am I able to keep track of what's happening? Or am I making it complicated?
No, no,
I don't
actually,
want to be. Yeah.
right. No, 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 no.
Okay.
It is difficult to keep up with what's changing and the dynamics of it. It is difficult to determine when is a product subject to the car parts tariff, the 25%. And I stumbled upon a piece of information. Ford had some cars modified years ago. It's an old piece of news, but it's the idea. Ford modified some of the Sprinter cars, the cargo vans, with seats, but it was fake seats, and they wanted to change the classification to a passenger car. So point is that which product, which part is considered a passenger vehicle part as opposed to a cargo vehicle part, and which one is rather going to be subject to the steel and aluminum tariff and maybe avoid the car part tariff. So it's really complex, and I think the people within the logistics space of the car dealers and the automakers, they have a full-time job, maybe even two times a full-time job, keeping up with all of that. And not even myself, I'm doing this full-time. I'm not even able to keep up with every nuanced piece of information that comes out. So yes, it's very difficult to keep up with the
Okay.
tariff.
And it's a genius strategy? Is this a great long-term strategy that just can't be understood right now? Is that possible?
Okay, I like the way you ask it because sometimes people fall into the trap of asking this in a political way, but you're not asking it in a political way. You're asking, are the fundamentals of that tariff meant to be complex? And the answer is no. I think that once the dust settles, we'll find ourselves with a specific type of tariffs that will shape the industry the way we know it. So it's either going to make car makers go away from the United States, and I'll give you a very, very basic example. If you have car parts coming into the United States, you pay for the 25% for the car parts, okay? And you know how it is with the automakers. They bring products from Mexico to the US and then to Canada. And sometimes you have a part crossing the borders a couple of times. Now, with having multiple tariff applied on top of one another, it becomes almost impossible to remain profitable. Assuming that one can absorb a 25% hike, they wouldn't be able to absorb many 25% hikes. So I think from that perspective, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think the dust will settle, and there's going to be clarity as to, let's say, one tariff that is going to include every single car and car part. So this way you don't have a car part on top of a car. And I also think that some of it, like you said, I think it was today that the White House announced they'll alleviate some of the tariffs for the car makers to give them time to adjust.
Right, which I have a follow-up on that too, but before we go there, when I read that, okay, so like a U.S. domestic, like a strong American brand that we're trying to protect, Ford,
Yes.
halting shipments to China, well, that can't be a great That can't be helpful to the brand. So is this like, oh God, didn't see that one coming, or it's collateral damage? Because, right, and Porsche also, I mean, if we keep seeing brands unable to export, doesn't that also hurt our U.S. American brands?
Yes, and I faded to your comment. I think I saw, I don't remember who it was, but they said that they'll have to stop manufacturing in the United States because it impacts their sales. They're not even a US based company, but they have plants here in the US. I can't remember which car maker it was. And they said that they'll have to stop the US manufacturing because they
It
can't
might have
sell
been
these cars.
Subaru. Subaru is saying.
Yes.
Then there's also Hyundai and Honda. But I mean, yeah, this is why I think those headlines that, and I'll go to the follow up now, say, oh yeah, we're going to help the car makers. I mean, where the car makers are seeking relief, sugar daddy. But I added that. But the thing is, I mean, okay, but that would have been a great conversation like 100 days ago.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't know the strategy behind this. It sounds like maybe Trump is admitting he made a mistake and he's taking back some of it.
Oh no,
I
no,
don't.
no. That guy doesn't make mistakes.
So yeah, it's not my place to
Somebody else made that. So it was that other guy, the guy in the garden with the thing. Yeah, he did it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know about that. I think that ultimately, if you look at the long-term strategy, and I don't want to steer the conversation into the political side of things,
Right.
but if you look at the long-term
I do,
strategy,
but no, I'm with you.
right, I'm trying to look at it from
Yeah,
the
I know.
legislative
I'll do that.
perspective, right? So from the legislative perspective, you have it's almost like a barrier to entry for people wanting to produce in the United States if you wouldn't allow them to import raw material. Because the entire world, not only the auto vehicles industry, but it's everything consists of imports of raw material into the country of manufacture and assembling it into the finished product. Even China imports raw material from Germany and some other nations. So you have to, in a way, you have to not only not put up barriers, but you also have to find a way to boost raw material imports in order to boost manufacturing in the United States. And again, I feel like my comment could be deciphered into more of a political anecdote,
Well,
but I
no,
wouldn't want to make it in that way, right?
You're being very fair. In fact, and I'm also going to add, because I like to push things and then come back a little. See, I get it. Listen, if this country's in quadrillions of dollars of debt, then yeah, we got to do some things, right?
Yeah.
We got to renegotiate. It's like any other deal. If
Yep.
you're underwater in your car or your house or your loans or student debt, you got to renegotiate. You got to call the credit card company and say, listen, man, this isn't working. I get it. I totally get that, and I'm on board with it. But when you look at global supply chain, it is not that simple. In fact, the ability to calculate all of the intricacies of the global connections and then the tariffs and the customs, dude, I don't even know how you put your arms around that.
Right, right. Yeah, it's complex and it's costly. It's costly.
And if you're changing things weekly or daily, you would arrive at the point, okay, fine, we're just not shipping anything anymore then. We're just timeout, right? Put the mask on, put the headphones on, and just shut the door, and let's watch Breaking Bad again. Because, you can't... Okay, stopping there. Ports. Are they the next frontier of craziness right now?
You want to talk about the Section 301 of the Maritime
Yeah,
Ships
yeah.
Act?
Yeah.
I want to, before I answer that question, I want to finish the previous conversation with two things.
Okay, good.
Because I try to at least bring some positivity. Again, it's like the saying, I think I share this with you. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects the wind to change. The realist adjusts the sails, right? I'm trying, whenever I speak with people or crowds, I try to steer the conversation into a place where, yeah, it looks broken, it looks confusing, it looks overwhelming. What can you do today? right? What can you do today to circumvent some of the duties? What can you do today to gain clarity? What can you do today to stay afloat? And those questions, they have answers. I promise you that, right? Let's not look at the macroeconomic level. Let's not look at in the entire worldwide supply chain. Let's look at the singular consumer that buys a product, that buys a car, right? You and I, we're still going to buy cars in the United States, and someone is going to sell it to me. Someone is going to sell it to you. That someone is going to figure something out that the others wouldn't. So all it takes from car makers and car parts manufacturers is to ask those questions. What tariffs do I face? How can I maybe mitigate some of it? Because let's talk for a sec. The steel and aluminum section 232, it's called derivative value, which is when you have a product, you want to look at the steel within that product, right? So to my example, a car seat, if you import the car seats, it might be subject to some sort of section 232. You know what? I'm not going to use a car seat example because it's a car part. I'm rather going to use mechanical parts, right? Mechanical parts, they will be subject to section 232 steel and aluminum, but it doesn't necessarily mean that 100% of the value of the product is subject to the section 232. And I don't know if am I too complex right now?
Well, yes, but this is complex. So
Okay.
yeah, keep
Thank
going. I
you.
mean, yeah,
Okay,
no,
thank you for saying
yeah,
this.
keep going. Yeah.
Okay, so let me just finish this comment. So you have a product, a mechanical part that consists of many moving pieces. It has an engine and it has a frame, it has a mechanism and whatnot. So number one thing that you want to look at, Section 232 for steel and aluminum is only for the derived value for the steel and aluminum within. So what you want to do is go to your manufacturer and find out what percentage of that product is steel and what percentage is something else, right? And this is crucial, and this is a lengthy conversation, but it's one that you should have today. The other thing is, again, with the same sentiment of don't change the world events, but do what you have to do today to stay afloat, is start looking into country of origin. And that is not necessarily going to help you with Section 282 right now, because it applies to the entire world, right? So even if you import from Mexico and Canada, you still have that Section 232. But it's really healthy to understand if you have products that will be subject to additional tariffs, such as the Chinese tariffs or eventually different tariffs. You want to understand, you want to educate yourself as to the parts origins. And that's not to say that it's going to be the only thing that you need to do and it's going to give you this magic key, but at least it's going to give you things to talk about and things to figure out. Maybe it could be assembled in a different country. Maybe it could be assembled in a country that we have a free trade agreement so that we avoid some of the tariffs, like the 10% universal tariff that Canadian and Mexican countries are still exempt from. So, and again, I'm not going to give you the recipe to figure out everything, but I'm going to say, and I feel like I'm saying this every day, all day long, just put your head to it. You have a commitment to your family, you have a commitment to your company, to your employees, and you will figure this out because, like I said, you and I, we're going to buy clothes, we're going to buy cars, we're going to buy accessories. And I don't think it's going to be made in the US, not so soon anyway. So I think you.
Thanks. That's part of the thing is that while I agree with renegotiating maybe tariffs, whatever these are financial instruments that you use when you're dealing in trade. But what I do want to ask, what is a percentage tariff that is still doable in a buyer, seller, manufacturer's mind? Is it 20% tariff still? It's painful, but we could do it. But 50, we're gonna have to look for a new supplier.
Relative.
Do you know the threshold?
The answer is relative.
Yeah.
Because if you would tell someone 4 years ago that there's going to be talks of the White House reducing, I'll say 5 years ago, if you would tell someone 5 years ago before the 2019 tariffs, that when the White House is going to say that they'll reduce to 50% Chinese goods tariffs, the stock market is going to go up, no one would believe you. And that is on top of the 25% that we already have, right? So essentially, it's saying, thank you, White House, for putting my products on a 75% tariff only. I really appreciate it. Stock market, thank you for going up. Yeah, someone would look at you and say you're insane. So I think it's relative, but that's just a anecdote. I think the truth is based on the margins and based on the way that the cost impacts the final landed cost in a way that if you have raw material, it doesn't consist of a big portion of the percentage. This is the example that I gave a friend of mine. If you import seeds of apple as opposed to apple, right? The seeds that you plant the apple in the United States, you're going to be taxed at the same tariff rate as the apple. So let's say we have a 25% tariff, but the seeds will be a fraction of the cost of the apple, of the finished product, and B is going to produce many apples. So you have a very discounted addition of tariffs on the seeds, on the raw material, let's call it, versus the finished product. But again, I think that my answer to you is I don't know, and I think it's it's a question that doesn't necessarily have a clear-cut answer.
Well, and what's interesting about your apple and seeds example is that I can eat an apple today. But I
Right,
can't eat an apple from the seed for several years.
right. But you look at it from the business perspective. I'm not necessarily talking about consumers. Consumers probably will have a different conversation. Economy is, it's weak as we know it. So I think it's a different conversation. But from a business perspective, a tariff on raw material doesn't impact you to the same rate as a tariff on the finished product. And I think it's a simple formula, but at least to paint the picture.
Well, and raw materials, right? That's a whole nother topic that seems to be kind of haywire. And that's already, you know, rare metals. It's already dicey. You can't get them everywhere. So then you go into tariff level, and now I mean, that's where it seems like some of the conversations are throwing their hands up because they're like, now it's just too complicated. And the idea, this is what I think I was going to say earlier, is that you can just bring manufacturing home because the tariffs are going to be too high. No, it's not realistic in many situations.
Not
It's
with the
not.
right incentives, right? You have to have the proper incentives. For
Right.
example,
Which
discounts on
is,
raw material, right?
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Which is a different conversation. And even Mercedes Benz right now is saying, listen, we brought a lot of production to the U.S. We went to Alabama. A third of our cars are produced there, but this is still hurting. Well,
Yes.
or it was as of the decision of a week ago. And that's again, I think throwing the throttle regularly has just, we are in tariff tizzy. And
I like that.
I, I don't think that's a real strategy. All right. But and I don't need to, I don't, listen, for the record, I think Joe Biden was Sleepy Joe and all that stuff, and I don't really like anything politically. But I'm here to call things out when they don't make sense. Biden or Trump or Kamala, I don't care. I'm here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, customs.
Wait, I didn't answer your question about Ships
Oh,
Act. I'm sorry about that.
which one?
The Ships
Which?
Act. The Ships
Okay,
Act.
all right. Please do. I'm
Okay, okay.
sorry.
Yeah, I guess it's too much on everyone's head right now. Okay, and I think I'm just gonna touch on this for a tiny bit. The Ships Act right now, well, let me just say what it is. It's a tariff, and it's not the Ships Act, but I'm using Ships Act because that was how it started. So it's an investigation into the Chinese investment into the shipbuilding of the Chinese shipyards. And what they have identified is that the Chinese government heavily subsidizes the manufacturing of ships and shipbuilding capabilities to hinder the performance and the capabilities of foreign fleets such as the United States. And that is merely a national security issue. It does not have to do anything with e-commerce. It doesn't with commerce, with trade, with economics. It's just national security. The US's Navy has been short of the required, I don't remember the number of a fleet that have to, I think it's 314 if I'm not mistaken. It has like a very specific number. They have been short of that amount for a very long time. The only time they had that amount, I think, was after World War II. And one of the reasons why they can't keep up is because the United States shipbuilding capabilities are not as polished or as sophisticated as the Chinese. One of the things that makes a shipbuilding manufacturer sophisticated is having a lot of business, right? Having a lot of business results from having competitive pricing, which is a pretty basic formula. So if the government is subsidizing shipbuildings in China, now French companies and Swedish companies, they're gonna come to China instead of to the United States to build their ships, right? So CMA CGM just finished the largest vessel, I think was for CMA CGM. It could carry just, I think maybe a week ago, not even a month. It's the largest vessel in the world, and it uses less fossil fuels, by the way. But that's not to our point right now. We're not talking about green energy, clean energy. So the point is, CMA has to place an order for new vessels. They'll go to China instead of the United States, and it's not because they like China more. It's because the price is more competitive, and because the price is more competitive, the Chinese shipbuilding companies are now having more business and able to invest in proper infrastructure. So it's a lengthy conversation that I think national security people are ready positioned to answer that question. But when I'm asked that question, I'm looking at it from the maritime perspective of shipments and shipping happening. And I want to say, I don't know the percent, but it's a huge percent of vessels that are owned by the Chinese or built by the Chinese shipbuilders. And taxing these vessels is a huge cost. And I don't want to sound the alarm bells on, inflation and whatnot. People try to. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that it's going to be a huge burden for shipments coming into the United States. Now, if one is going to say, okay, well, let me just ship on American-made vessels, there's not too many of them. Maersk has some, right? Matson is a US owned company. Now, part of the Shipbuilding Act, and I'm not entirely educated, 100% educated on exactly how many levels there will be, because there's going to be a level of if you have more than, I think, 50% of pending production in China, if you have whatever, it has a couple of levels that I'm not entirely educated about. But there was also a component in the Ships Act that said that American businesses have to ship a percentage of their cargo on US owned and US flagged vessels.
I thought I saw something like that too. I thought I saw a headline that even like an American aircraft carrier is now going to have some cars on it. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I
No.
didn't understand that fully. I should have fully read it. But Wallenius Wilm, right? Wallenius. That's a car carrier ship.
Okay.
Hyundai Glovis has car carrying ships. BYD has been talking about how they have maybe the largest capacity and they're cranking out car carrying vessels. The Ships Act, I just shared a link to it in the live chat. I like that we're kind of going in a rabbit hole on ocean vessels, but that is important. And it's interesting that you are talking about ocean vessels and what you just said about, okay, so what did you say that there is something, an investigation about Chinese shipyards putting less quality into foreign vessels that they make?
No, 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 not less quality. No,
Okay.
it's that they are intentionally, let's call it dumping the market so that they will dominate the shipbuilding.
Oh, they're lowering the price, not the
Yes,
quality.
right.
Okay.
They're lowering the price, so they're
Ah.
competing with the rest of the world.
And thus
You
the
know,
incentive of other countries to go get their
yes.
ships made in China.
And as a result, and that was my
Mm,
point, as a
okay.
result, China has a strong dominance over the rest of the world in navy and shipbuilding capabilities, which is a national security issue.
Right. And in fact, isn't that an example of their strategy in many other product classes? They'll do it cheaper, right? To get the business. I mean, isn't that kind of manufacturing dominance 101?
I
Take
wouldn't
a
say
hit on profit,
it's
get the
so,
market share, right?
yeah, solar panels. Solar panels, if you look, I think it was a year ago, 2 years ago, China said they have, I don't even know the name they call this, solar panel manufacturing. It was kind of like an initiative where they said produce as many solar panels as you can so that the world is going to sink in a sea of solar panels. I don't remember the word that they used, but it was
That's
like
it. Because
over
they've done that with
manufactured.
LCD monitors,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I
right.
got Samsung. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're doing it with solar panels. And so now you see, I think it was like, I don't want to say 1,000%, but a couple of 100% tariff on solar panels, not only from China.
whoa.
Yeah.
So who? Okay. So suddenly you're in your face. Okay, you're an American solar panel desert, you know, provider or whatever.
Yeah.
And now what'd you say? Did you say
I,
1,000%?
I don't want to say a thousand
Okay, all
percent.
right.
I don't want to
But
say
whatever it
a
is, it's
couple
a
of
lot
hundred.
of percent.
For sure, 200.
All
More than
right, and
200.
okay, that's gonna put us out. We can't do that. So now where? I guess this is tariff panic. This is a tariff tizzy. Okay, we gotta get solar panels from somewhere else. So what do? Start Googling for solar panels?
I don't have the answer to it, but I think
Okay.
there is maybe other countries that manufacture this, or it is shucks, I forgot. But there is a philosophy behind this that actually makes sense. And again, I'm not here to support any president's decision, but the solar
Right.
panel tariff
Huh.
was put in place
Th-
during Biden's presidency.
Perfect. Perfect. Because there, let's do that. This is great. There were tariffs in place before Trump.
Yes.
Were there tariffs in place before Biden?
Yeah, you bet.
Right. How long have we had international tariffs in place?
Forever.
All
1980
right.
Tariff Act is a tariff.
Okay. So we've had tariffs since the beginning of the country.
Yes.
There were tariffs before this country began.
Heck, you know the war of independence started with a T.
There you
I
go.
li I like tea.
Yeah,
Do you
right.
know the story?
Well,
Maybe for a different time.
no taxation without
Boston
representation. Is that what
Boston Tea
Boston Tea
Party.
Party? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, I mean, there were tariffs over 500 years ago when Spain and Italy were dominating the seas, right?
Yes, yes,
All right. There were tariffs back in ancient Egyptian times and ancient Samaria and pharaohs and 2,000 years ago, right?
yes,
The Romans had tariffs. There's
yes,
been tariffs forever.
yes,
And when
that's
you
true.
look at it that way, I guess it's not so bad. But but we're in a new level of tariff. I mean, traditional tariffs are not 145% against a country,
Yes,
right?
no, no, not a blanket tariff
Right.
of every
In fact, I don't
product.
know if I've ever heard of that before. Have you heard of that before?
Yeah, for Russia, yes.
Okay. For Russia, okay. So let's play tariff mania. What other like interesting tariffs could you talk about internationally? I don't know. Let's throw in Canada and Germany and Iceland and all those other countries we want to change. The Gulf of America. Are there other tariffs that we haven't been paying attention to that you find interesting?
Well, there is a lot of investigations that I actually think makes a lot of sense. Again, I don't want to take the stand of the devil's advocate, but there is, let's say, candles, right? If you have candles, if you import candles, and actually candles, they were taxed many, many years, like hundreds of years ago. But the idea of taxing the candles is also because of heavy subsidies. And I don't know why. I don't know what the incentive behind this is, but it's called laissez-faire trade value. So, and that's the anti-dumping tariff. And I don't want to get lost into that rabbit hole because it's a very lengthy conversation, but it has copy paper from, I think, Ukraine has anti-dumping. You have, like I said, the candle, they have mattresses. Did you know that cabinets have an anti-dumping tariff of, I think, 78%? Mattresses, they have 100 and something. I'm not sure the number. Actually, maybe close to 100% mattresses. And you have many products that have anti-dumping tariff. But the anti-dumping tariff actually makes sense because if you look at a product to manufacture, the cost to manufacture this, even if it's not in the United States, but in a country that doesn't have the investigation of the anti-dumping investigation, you will find a huge difference in price. Why? Because the nations that are under investigation, for the reason are they under investigation because they're dumping the market. Anti-dumping stands for they're dumping the price for the product less than fair trade value. And that's where the incentive of putting companies out. The language used in the ship in the ships, the Chinese ships, Section 301 investigation is very similar, but it's not the same. So again, I think this is already too complex. So let's just keep this on a surface level. The ships are national security, anti-dumping for, let's call it mattresses, or for commerce to protect US companies from foreign competition, especially if it's government subsidized. But it's not just government subsidies, it's also private companies as well.
All right. So for 200, should we go to customs handling, rights of claim, certificates to prove clear chain production? Which one do you want to go to?
Okay, say that again. I'm sorry.
I said it like it was a game show.
Yeah.
For $200, do you want to go to customs handling, rights of claim? You know, you're on ATI. It's a dangerous place. Certificates to prove clear chain of production. We could also go to the Jones Act.
Oh, the Jones Act is similar to the ships, so I'm going to
Let's
touch
go
on
there.
that. But the certificate of chain of, let's call it certificate of origin, is also a topic that Trump invests effort in. Well, yeah. Which one would you want? The Jones Act or the certificate of? I'll call it the certificate of origin because
Okay.
that's going to be the biggest scam of the 2025.
I'm curious of what. Yeah, go please. Certificate of origin for 200.
So one of the things that you noticed in the media in the news of what Trump is trying to do, and they use the word isolate China. And one of the things, and obviously it comes from my perspective, but there is more to it. But the way I see it, Chinese companies have been transporting products and shipments to other nations such as Vietnam and Malaysia, and they are applying labels of it's made in Malaysia, it's made in Vietnam, and they are essentially that's smuggling. It's a crime. And it's very easy to do because no one is interested in catching them because everyone appreciates more business, right? Malaysia appreciates more business and Vietnam appreciates more business. But what happens if Trump says that part of our deal is going to be for you to put up barriers not to enable such transports? So a few things that they could do. Number one, the government is not going to issue certificates of origin without proper vetting. So they'll need a manufacturer name and they'll go through whatever they have to go through to verify that it was indeed manufactured or assembled in that country. And also transshipments. When you transship a shipment from China to Vietnam and you just transload the container into another container, those warehouses will be inspected heavily by US and Vietnam officials. So that's something that is going to be explored a lot. It's already been, I want to say. An interesting thing that I posted on LinkedIn is FedEx announced they'll start a new service from what was it, Singapore, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Singapore to the US. What happened all of a sudden that Singapore has so many shipments? Singapore is not a manufacturing country, at least they didn't become one in a way that FedEx has to dedicate a entire weekly service to them, right? I think, and I don't want to say this conclusively for Singapore, but I want to say that overall, we're going to see a lot of shifts in not just manufacturing, but also transport. And it's going to be shady.
Well, what you just told me I found really interesting because I didn't know, and I'm not saying you said this, but I think what you are saying is it's possible that a product that I've got says, made in Malaysia, and maybe it was just would you say transported?
I
It
call
wasn't
this
made there. But
transshipped. Yeah,
it
yeah,
was transshipped from maybe China or Taiwan or Vietnam or vice versa, and
right.
that's been happening.
Yes,
And that actually makes a lot of sense. Because I've seen made in Malaysia, or made in Taiwan, or made in Vietnam, or made in China. And after a while, you're like, I don't know. It's one of them.
well, just to take away the negativity or the
It's okay.
conclusiveness of this, I want to
Yeah,
say
sure.
that products have moved, right? Manufacturing has
Sure.
moved to Vietnam and to Malaysia. So when you
Right.
see products
Yes.
actually made in Malaysia, it
Right.
makes a lot of sense.
And I'm not going to say that it hasn't.
Yes,
But I am going to say that it's possible that one of them is made in Malaysia, China, Taiwan.
yes,
Yes. I mean, and it's also possible, just like many other things crazy things we've seen, it's possible that somebody would come up with that idea.
well, it's not just possible. It's the
Yeah.
incentives are aligned. There's another
And,
component to
and
it.
and you know what? In our awesome capitalist republic, we might do something, you know,
If
made in Arizona, Georgia, Texas, Sippy.
Yeah, yeah. There is also another component to incentivizing people to do this transshipment thing is for the direct-to-consumer companies like Temu and SHEIN, they have the issue right now with Section 321. It's basically you were able to ship direct to consumer without going through regular customs. It's like a fast lane custom. And obviously they were able to do many things that one cannot do legally. And Trump, one of his two executive orders on Liberation Day, signed to eliminate that Section 321, which is going to be eliminated in 2 days, May 2, in 3 days. So, and that's why you see TEMU and SHEIN increase their price with 200% or the likes. So, but it's not been terminated for Vietnam, right? So if you were to ship a product that is assuming made in Vietnam 100%, you could still ship direct to consumer under the Section 321. The Section 321 is just eliminated for China.
For
So
China.
now, not to give anyone wrong thoughts,
Right.
but what if I
Right.
am based in China, no one is going to
Somebody's
catch
working on it
me.
right now.
Yeah,
How
and then
far a
one,
swim is it? Temu and SHEIN.
yes,
And what's interesting is those are both. I didn't know what SHEIN was, but I've heard of Temu, and I've heard it. Really, I heard of Temu on the Super Bowl.
okay, yes,
I believe it was
six
over,
times.
and I think it was 2024 Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they paid like
and-
$1 million or I don't know
yeah,
how much
everybody's
money.
like, "What's that?"
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people. Now, SHEIN, similar thing. And I put it in the live chat. So you get Temu and SHEIN. Those are both very big. Apparently, SHEIN does a lot in clothing.
Yeah,
Okay. And it's really affordable clothing that,
fashionable clothing. Yeah.
yes. So you might only wear it a few times and you don't pay that much money.
Yes.
It's great, right? How great is that?
Yes.
You might get a rash for a few weeks. Okay.
Yes.
But anyways, that is really interesting. So this is gonna really cut into the Temu and SHEIN because I mean those brands they're growing, right? If
Yeah.
you're on TikTok, you're seeing those ads constantly.
Yes. Yes. But they stop. They wind down the advertising spend.
Right, because they can no longer offer insane deals
Right.
or
Right.
something. Anyways, it's
They
not like
don't
they're
have the
gonna go
budget
away, but
for
this
it.
will, yeah.
And this is the
Do you-
good news
Yeah.
for businesses in the US because the cost of doing business when you have a rival such as Temu, and not to talk about the actual competition and the business it steals from you, but I'm talking about the cost of doing business, such as Google Ads. Who competes on your keywords on Google Ads today, and who competed on it a week ago? And what if all of a sudden your biggest competition on that specific keyword just went away, and that biggest competition had a endless pocket of money, such as the Super Bowl? All of a sudden, the cost of doing business, and this is my my belief, but I have any way to back it up, is the cost of doing business, such as advertising costs, just went down significantly. This is not to make the tariffs right, but at least one good thing that came out from the Liberation Day is that US businesses can now compete. They will get more business because TEMU cannot deliver as cheap or as fast, and the cost for them to do business is less expensive, so the tariffs could be absorbed.
Now, what's interesting is I think in that example, you just gave an example of how the tariffs are helping a domestic manufacturer. What went through my mind as you were saying it is, well, then it would seem that the execs at TEMU and SHEIN will find a way to make sure manufacturing happens in one of those other countries. And it won't be that hard to make that happen, right?
Yes. Well, the cost of manufacturing in different countries are not as cheap as China, but again, with this model of cheap labor, potentially forced labor, yeah, one can only speculate.
Do you ever follow that company Foxconn that built the iPhones and then the
Yes.
suicide nets?
Yeah, I just saw one video, but let me let you get to the point first.
Well, Foxconn, when I'd heard of them, I thought, well, it's just another crazy company that, oh, well, we really want our iPhones, so we'll just do it. But that company has grown to such a size, now they're in the U.S. trying to make deals with, like, I think Lordstown Motors would shut down, or they're really trying to make a deal with the car manufacturer. So when a company gets big enough, it grows from its whatever it was before. And I guess where I'm arriving is TEMU or SHEIN could get so big, maybe already has, to where, oh, okay, well, yeah, just won't do our normal Chinese to U.S. shipping anymore. We've grown beyond that anyways. That's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll be fine. We'll see you soon.
I agree with you 100%. It takes little for Shane to decide to become a US based company. Um, well, it's first of all, when you become a US based company, all of a sudden you have to comply with the US regulations. So why do I care if I have another competition if we're both playing the same field and the playing field is level? Not that bad, is it?
Yeah, I mean, you can figure it out. It's getting started is really the hardest part.
It's
And
until
building
now.
some brand awareness and right?
I think that especially with clothing, if you look at clothing, the fashion
Yeah, that's an
clothing,
interesting industry. Yeah.
it's very expensive. And one of the reasons why it's expensive, obviously because it's designer, but it's also the tariffs on clothing, even before the 145% on China. You had on some pieces of apparel, you have like 34% duties, and then you potentially have the Section 301 tariff, 25% or 7.5%. So if you think of a US business that has to import these products the traditional way and pay the tariffs and the duties, and then you think of Shane that is able to sell direct to the consumer and they could just avoid paying any duties and any tariffs, that's a very uneven playing field. It's putting the US businesses at a disadvantage of the sorts of 50, 60%.
I totally agree. What do you think about how about video games? We saw that like the Nintendo Switch, I think has just come out.
I haven't seen anything from them. What did you see?
So Nintendo Switch is the new Nintendo game console.
Right.
And when a new game console, whether it's Sony, Nintendo, I'm not sure who the other ones are, but it's a frenzy. They sell out,
Yes.
and and they're awesome.
Yes.
Well, this is for Nintendo. I believe it's made in China
Okay.
for U.S. consumers that are passionate, and it's a lot of people.
Right.
are passionate about Nintendo Switch new game console. I think it's going to double the price. I don't know exactly, but I don't know. I guess I bring it up because it's in the news. People wonder, but you don't have any insight into Nintendo per se. I don't know if you have another example of like a product US a product Americans are passionate about, and then you
iPhones.
how about okay, yeah,
iPhones.
iPhones.
And that's why
Great,
you
take it
you
away.
saw
Okay.
the, yes, but you saw the exemption, right? The iPhones and the semiconductors.
Exactly, and we exempted it. That's
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
Exactly. Can you explain why did we exempt iPhones?
I'll tell you why, but it's not what people think. But it's going to be a little bit geeky. So people obviously think that the iPhones is such a great need for US consumers that Trump just had to exempt it because otherwise people would just drop dead on the street if they don't have the iPhone. Well, it could be that was the case, but right after the exemption, there's a Section 232 investigation started in semiconductor and chip making. The Section 232 investigation is a conflict. The right word is not a conflict, but the executive order of the IEEPA, the reciprocal tariff, says that it's not piled on top of a Section 232. So I think, and I've seen this from other people saying it, and again, I can only speculate that in order to start the investigation, they needed to exempt it from IEEPA, reciprocal tariff.
I see. Okay, so
And
that was pretty geeky.
yes, and the IEEPA, it could go away if only Jinping is going to climb down his ladder, but Section 232 will not. Section 232 is national security. It's all about national security. So when you look at all of these steel and aluminum tariffs that we talked in the beginning of the call, it's not about China. It's not about unfair trade. It's not about deficit. It's about national security. It's about US companies starting to manufacture more steel and aluminum just so that we, in time of crisis, have the capabilities of producing more.
You know, it seems like, and I think we're gonna get near the conclusion here soon. It seems like to become proficient in international shipping, you have to really understand logistics. It seems like there's a pretty heavy legal section, and then, like you said, country of origin. You're gonna have to know a lot about world geography.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there more? Are there other sections? If you wrote Abe's book of global shipping logistics, what other sections would be in your book?
I have one that comes to my mind and it's so loud. It's culture. Culture. People were in a culture shock when they first were cheated by Chinese. And this is not my statement of bad mouthing Chinese. You can say whatever you want. If you want to listen to Kevin Alati, you can do so. The idea is there are cultural differences with every nation that you trade. And when you start looking into trading with other nations and with other manufacturers, yes, you want to look at the supply chain, the logistics, the compliance, and the cost of doing business with that nation, whatever it takes with licensing. But I think the underlying mechanism is culture. If it's a culture that you could trust, like Japanese, right? Japanese have this level of trust that you shake their hands and it's like it's stronger than any contract signed with any court of law. But on the other hand, if you only dare cheat them, you're a goner. So different cultures, different people, different ways of how they trade, how they deal with you. It's really important to understand the people that you work with and not just the product. But you're saying about legalities. I don't know if I would add anything other than the culture on top of your list. You said logistics, the shipping time, the cost of doing business, the cost of shipping a product, the country specific restraints such as natural resources, holidays, and some politics, like in Pakistan and Colombo, they have like their own issues, and India. So understanding a little bit about those dynamics, but yeah, I think that's already too sophisticated. If you want to keep it simple, it's just understanding your product, compliance, if it's subject to any type of compliance, electrical parts, tariffs, classifications, consumer-oriented products, safety, choking hazard, lead. Well, it's you know what? Yeah, it's a long list, I guess.
So I think you're going to work on a book now, aren't you?
No,
Abe's audiobook.
no.
Um, that was a really good. That was a really good answer, and I think that I know I'm thinking. Anybody listening is thinking. Anybody watching on demand is going to be thinking about that because, yeah, we are. We have to, whether we want to or not, we have to think about the nuances of the culture that
Yes,
we're working with at that time,
yes.
and they are different.
And I think that's part of the reason why we are in this trade war, because the cultural clash.
This is a culture war
Yeah, yeah.
and more. Culture war plus.
Yes, yes. Ego plus culture.
Ego.
But it's
Yes.
cultural infused ego, I think.
What's interesting, and maybe that's where it's interesting. Culture ego. That's where it's easy to make that political leap. In this country, one of the reasons that I mean, I feel like I'm making fun of politics. Okay. And I'm doing that because we seem to have associated political party with like masculinity and like these fun. It's no longer just politics. And I see that whenever I see a president, it's usually one president in particular, but a president with like spray tanned abs with a flag on a tank, I'm thinking, what are we? Have we moved into cult of personality rather than it's just politics? And that's where culture, ego, we're mixing these things all together, and it makes it much messier.
Yeah. You want to hear a funny thing?
Yes.
I actually share the same sentiment that you just shared. And it's very funny. Do you know the Enneagram? It's the 9 personality types. It's called
Uh,
Enneagram. So
okay.
briefly, and yeah, if you want to search about it, it's very fascinating. It has 9 personality traits of people. There's a 1, a 2, a 3, and 4, and up to the number 9. And back a couple weeks ago, I was having fun with my ChatGPT, and I did like I want to assign Enneagram numbers to nations, and I started telling ChatGPT the numbers that I feel nations are, and it actually helped me draft a rundown of the nations. So it was pretty funny. I'll give you 2 examples. Russia is the 8. The 8 is the challenger, power-driven, confrontational, and unafraid to dominate, seeks respect through control. That's the number 8, the definition of the number 8. And if you look at Putin, that's exactly what he is. Ukraine, on the other hand, is the number 9. The number 9 is a peacemaker. He's calm, grounded, resilient, didn't want the fight, but wouldn't fold. Let's use, okay, obviously you want to talk about China, so I'm gonna use China and North Korea for the fun of it. China is a 6. A 6 is a loyalist. A loyalist is strategic, skeptical, and security obsessed. Loyalty and control reign supreme. So he's not just the 8 that is like controlling, but he's really afraid. You know, the difference is Putin is not afraid. He's like, I have to own it. And China is the 6. Well, anyways, North Korea is gonna be a 5 with a wing of 8. He's like the observer, but with a dark edge. Secretive, paranoid, fiercely controlling, studies everything, shares nothing. How do you like it? Oh, let me finish with the US then, I guess. The US is a big flat 3. A 3 is the achiever, or I call it the performer. It's image obsessed, endlessly reinventing, sells success like it's gospel. And I want to add, and has nothing. But I guess that's too negative already because the
No, I
3
loved it.
the,
Yeah.
the 3 is like a performer that is just putting up a show. And he could be very successful because he gets people to believe in him. And as long as people believe in him, he has a trade. He has a, the currency, the world currency. But maybe I shouldn't say this.
Well,
Anyway,
no, listen, I'm gonna give you another applause. I'm gonna applaud you for. I thought that was really smart. And what I was able to do is I put in the live chat. One of the things that I like to do is I like to also throw things in the live chat. And I found the Enneagram Institute link,
okay.
put it in the live chat, and then as you went through you went through 8, 9, 6, 5, and 3. I put them all in the live chat so anybody watching can follow along. And I'm going to add this on the achiever.
Hmm.
So, adaptive, excelling, driven, image conscious. See, I have this thing. People blame the media. People blame Hollywood. It's very common in America.
Yeah.
And I find it ironic because I think America is secretly obsessed with being in the media, craving Hollywood. It's part of this, this
Image.
self-achieving, image-seeking, and it's this duality that I think America has. Even right now, it's pissing some people off that I even said that. And that's part of the duality. It's very, but I mean, it's, Russia, number 8, I'll just say, the Putin thing. Anybody that believed we could make Putin do whatever we wanted within 24 hours, that is just dumb.
By
That's
the way,
dumb.
the positive side of this, knowing, and this is on a serious note, although this was a bunch of fun for me to do, but the positive thing is that it has a pattern. If you want to satisfy Putin, if you really want, study the 8. Okay? The 8 has a way that he wants dominance, but he also likes coalition. If you give me my respect. Again, I don't want to take this conversation to politics, but I think if you look at China, if you look at uh, the issues that we're dealing with, and you try to understand the culture behind this, you can satisfy many, many people that
Well, and now you're back into international shipping because yes, if you run into, I think what we're getting at, if you were running into an international shipping challenge, study the culture
yes,
and adapt.
yes.
And that could be how you succeed in international shipping.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. That was cool, man. That was
you.
really good. I know that we have some topics, some things we didn't cover, but we really did cover a lot. You've been with me an hour. I've kept you an hour. I knew you're in Eastern time. So at this point, I think I'm just going to thank you.
Thank you for having me, Jay. And it was a lot of fun.
That was a good conversation.
Yes.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa. Vanessa brought us together here today. So, Abe, I'll let you go. I'll put you back in the waiting room, and I'll finish out the show.
Thank you, Jay. Have a good
All right,
evening.
take care. Oh, hey, and simpleforwarding.com, right?
Oh, I did with the same sentiment of the realist adjust the sale. What I did was I created a white paper and I called this the art of the deal, which you could probably relate is the way you deal with the current uncertainties, how you deal with your suppliers, how you deal with your supply chain, what could you do today to get by. So if you go to industry insights by the drop down, actually by resources, oh, you got it here. Yeah. I will urge anyone that is in the imports, wholesale, retail, commerce, anything that has to do with the tariffs, and I think that is just about anyone, should go ahead and download this white paper because it's gonna have something for everyone just to get you thinking, to get your wheels in your head spinning with some ideas on how to, get by and stay afloat.
Right. So you can go to, I put the link in the live chat. You can go to simpleforwarding.com/resources/the art of the deal. It's in the menu. I saw it at the top of the webpage. When I went to the home page, there was a banner. Don't just react. Outsmart them. Get the guide. And you can click on that. And then you can, what do you get when you fill this out? What do you get? You get a
Get
PDF?
a white paper, a
A
PDF
white paper.
with,
Okay.
yes, with a few very important food for thought. It's not going to give you the entire ingredient of, oh, here's the saying. Yeah.
Yeah, the pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist is expected to change. The realist adjusts the sails.
Yes. And I'm just
Cool.
obsessed about shipping, so I had to use
Yeah,
this.
I
This
know.
quote.
Well, anybody watching this now knows Abe Orgel, CEO of Simple Forwarding and obsessed with shipping. Abe, thanks again, man.
Thank you so
Really
much, Ray.
appreciate it.
Have a good
night.
Bye.
All right, take care. All right, we put Abe back in the waiting room. We'll finish out the show. If you're still watching, really do appreciate it. That's pretty nice of you. And that was about a 1-hour interview. This will be available on demand. I don't know what happened to the LinkedIn stream. And you know what's weird? That's what happened 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday night. But on Thursday, it worked. And I don't know. I'll look into it. We'll set up a task force and, all that cool stuff. Anyways, just finish this show, Jay. You've kept everybody long enough. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. It's ATI Auto Business. My name is Jay. I've got a show Thursday. I've got a show next Tuesday night. Then we're going to be off again for a couple weeks. That's kind of the new norm at ATI. Show every couple weeks here and there. We'll do our thing. And as you can see, tonight's show is off. Also, we're, pushing the boundaries of the automotive ecosystem. Why not? Right? Because everything keeps changing. I don't really know why. It's crazy industry. Crazy. I don't know. I really don't know. You can send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. I'm just trying to do the best I can. If you've watched this show, that's what I've been doing since 2017. So, I don't know. I didn't change anything. I'm not sure why everything has changed, but I guess it's just going to keep on changing. Send me an email, autotransportintel, accept the email address, autotransportintel@gmail.com. My name is Jay. It's ATI Auto Business. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend, subscribe, like, comment, and all that cool stuff. Have a good night. Take care. Thank you. Good night.